to Friday Night Live. My name is Sharon Rogers and I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator from Wells, Maine. And this, oh, right on cue, is my Stampin' supervisor. He's not a very good one. Crash. Crash loves to be in my stamp room, loves to sit on the back of my chair. You probably can't quite tell how much he has torn it up because of his desire to get up there. But you know what? It doesn't affect my comfort, and I love having him there, so I deal with it. Hello, Anne. Thank you for joining me. And if the rest of you would like to pop on and say hello, I'd love to know who's joining me, where you're from. Anne is from my neck of the woods in southern Maine. And we'll see who else is joining us shortly. I can see there are others of you on. You can't hide. Well, you sort of can, because I can't really tell who you are until you chat with me. Ruth is here from Florida, and her days are getting nicer. That's really great. The days are getting nicer here as well. In fact, I saw the forecast, and next Tuesday it's supposed to hit 47 here. That is crazy. And then, of course, the long-term forecast for that same week, Friday, is like 8 to 10 inches right now. So we'll see. But if I could get rid of some of the snow on the roof at the church that I kind of oversee the facilities for, that would be great. But the dark side of the church, which sounds really bad, but it's really the side that gets only the early morning sun and the late afternoon sun, that almost never melts when everything else melts because it's the dark side. Anyway, well, what do you say we get started? I have a fun little background technique for you that was inspired by a recent, and I can't remember if it was December or January, one of those paper pumpkins. And some of you are going to recognize it because you are Paper Pumpkin subscribers. I also used it for inspiration on a card, I don't know, a few weeks back. So maybe you'll recognize it from that. But let me turn you down and we'll get this party started. Now it's going to get ugly for a second because I got to turn the holder down. Well, look at how ugly that is. Wow, messy, messy. We'll try to get you in a more zoomed in look. But, all right, let's straighten this out a little bit, get it so I don't have my holder showing over here. That's getting a little bit better. And Linda's here from Idaho. So happy to have you all here with me. All right, so I'm going to show you actually two ways to do this background. I'm going to show you the difference. And then I don't know which one I'll use, but we'll use one of the two. So I'm going to be creating a background using a water painter and several ink colors. Now this is watercolor paper, which holds up to water very, very well. It's cold pressed cotton, and it comes in sheets that are 5 by 7. So I'm going to cut that in half so I have a 3.5 by 5 sheet. Ooh, sorry, my paper cutter is resting on my my holder, so that's why it's why it's tipping the screen for you, and it's also why it's not really cutting very well on my cardstock. All right, there we go. I also think I have a defective blade because that blade doesn't want to work as nicely as some others. All right, so now when you're using watercolor, I'm using a water painter and I'm using the widest one. So our water painters come in a set of 3, and this is the widest one. So it's good for doing a watercolor wash. And all you do is you unscrew it and you fill up this tube to the line. That puts the water right in there so it's not messy. And then there's a place where you see push, and you push, and that makes the water come out. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to prime my watercolor paper. So that just means I'm going to get it plenty wet. All right. And then I'm going to get out some ink pads, and I'm going to start with Night of Navy, and I'm going to squeeze the lid together And I'm gonna, again, get some water in there. I want it nice and juicy. And I'm just gonna paint across the top. All right. I want it a little bit darker, so I just keep going over it. All right, now I'm gonna get another one. I'm gonna get Misty Moonlight, and I can dry this one off a little bit. I have a paper towel here, and I'm just gonna squeeze some of the water out, get some of that ink out. Sometime when I'm not being very patient, I'll just take a cup of water, and that works a little bit better that way. So here I am, just putting some of this on here now, and this really holds up to a lot of water. And I also like to, once I've used this, I like to, and I'm putting it away, I like to get some of the water out of there. I don't have to do that right now because I'm going to show you it on another piece of paper in a minute. I'm going to bring in my pretty peacock, and I'm going to do the same thing. So does anybody recognize the paper pumpkin background that I'm sort of copying here? So I'm just putting on a layer of ink here, and I'm kind of blending it. And then I'm going to do shaded spruce. All right. And because I'm using some colors that aren't far off from each other, I don't have to worry about cleaning it too much. All right. Okay. There we go. And so then I would want to let that dry. Now I'm going to dry this using a heat tool in a little bit to speed things up, but I want to show you the other background first. All right, I'm going to squeeze out some of the water here, get the green off it. And that's really how you can kind of clean these. You just squeeze out more water. Now I'm running out of water a little bit, so I've been pretty heavy-handed with the water. Hopefully I can make it through here just fine. All right, now I have a piece of thick basic white. You don't want to use regular basic white. You're going to have to use thick. And I'm going to do the same process. So I'm gonna paint some water on here, and I can't do quite as much water on here just because that's what happened. It curls. So you gotta be a little bit careful here, but then you're just gonna work quickly to add in some of the other color. All right, and it's okay if you've got some darker areas and some that are not as dark. Now this piece is actually a card front size, and I like to do that because especially when it gets wider, I tend to sometimes miss some of the edges, and so some of it stays white, and I don't want that. Let me bring in my Misty Moonlight. Now because I cleaned it up, I want to put some more in there. You can also, if you have re-inkers, it's actually easier if you just use the re-inker and put a drop down and mix it with the water. So here's just a different shade of blue. Just transitions it a little bit. And you can see I'm doing nice wide stripes. Trying to work quickly without running out of water. I love Pretty Peacock. It's so pretty. All right, come on, water. You can do it. You've got enough. I know I've got enough in there. And then the last one right here. Oh, you know what? I hadn't primed this, did I? No, I hadn't primed this, and that's why it's going on a little bit harder here. All right. Okay, so again, I've got a stripe here. All right, I'm going to just clean off my ink pads a little bit. We got to do a little bit of drying. So while I'm doing this, tell me about your week. Was it a good week? I came home to a little bouquet, well, a little arrangement of flowers today from my husband, which was very nice. Even more nice was he picked up some dipping chocolate and some strawberries. So I'm gonna make that tonight after this. I love chocolate covered strawberries. I don't know about you, but They're my fave. All right, now I'm working on the Glass Mat Studio, which is awesome because it is tempered. It's made to hold up and stand up to the heat. So I like drying things on there. Now you're gonna see that this is actually, it's not totally dry, but it's a lot drier and it's a lot flatter than this. So again, I'm gonna just dry this, take some of the moisture out, even though I don't really have to here. I think I had a little bit of a red or pink left over because I'm seeing that it's a little bit of purplish hue up there, which I actually don't mind because I love purples and greens together. You can see it a little bit more on the back here. But I'm doing it from the back so that I'm heating both sides. It keeps it a little bit more even, a little bit more flat. And you can see with the watercolor paper, the inks blend a whole lot better. All right, let's see here. Let's set that aside for a second. Now this one, you're going to notice that this one will want to curl a lot more. And that also means securing it to your cardstock is going to be harder. But again, if you just take your time and you're trying to apply the heat fairly evenly, and you go to the other side, it kind of flattens it back out before it starts to curl this way. If I'm using thick basic white cardstock, a lot of times what I'll do is I'll leave it under a book or something heavy, maybe even overnight. I am not typically a patient person. When I want to create, I want to create. So I'm more prone to using the watercolor paper for this kind of technique, just because I am so impatient. All right, I'm going one more little pass here to see if I can try to flatten it out a little bit more. We're going to have to force it with the glue. That's how we will really get it to stick. All right, so that is done. Now, I think what I might do is I might just put this, because I need to do some other things. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to put this on the floor under something heavy. I mean, this isn't really heavy, but it's heavier than the paper. Oh, I know. I'll put all my new stamps and dies underneath it. That container has a lot of weight to it. All right, so now I'm going to bring in a bundle. Let's see, where is it? All right, here's my bundle. And where's my friend Sheila? She's not on tonight, or she's at least not saying hello tonight. I want to know where Sam is. Crash wants to know where Sam is. So this is Greenery Lane. And it's just got some basic kind of greenery things. Now, this actually comes as a suite of product, and you can get a washi tape, a wide washi tape that coordinates with it. It's got these images kind of all done up and colored and really pretty. But unlike the last washi tape and dies that we had that coordinated, this washi tape has to be cut out. You have to use the individual dies. It's not a total single die. So you have to do a lot of placing and using washi tape to stick the dies to the washi tape so they don't slip going through. So I knew that like that's probably just not going to work for me. So I mean, you don't have to die cut the washi, but I just knew I didn't need it. So all right, so I'm going to bring in some of these stamps and dies. And I've already got some done out, but I'm going to at least show you a little bit. So I know that I always love vellum as a die cut. It's just really, really pretty. So I'm going to bring in my die cutting machine, and I'm going to cut this larger one. Well, helps if I have my plates, I suppose. Put this larger one in here and run that through. Okay. And so, like, this one actually goes along with this stamped image, but I was fine with it just being this way for what I'm using it for. It's going to be behind some stuff. We'll see if I like it. And then I need to stamp a few things. So I thought, oh, well, I will, I'm going to stamp, well, I could stamp this. I don't need, do I want to? Do I not want to? I guess I won't. I'm going to use, here, let me bring this in so you can see what I'm talking about. I'm going to use these two. So this is a two-step stamping set, which means, and let me show you a little tip when you've got a lot of two-stepping to do. So I'm going to do a couple of two-steps. I'm going to do this one, and I'm going to do this one. So I don't have a lot of little blocks here at the house. So I'm going to put the outline on the left side of this side of the block. And then I'm going to put the solid one on what is the left side of the opposite side. So they're not overlapping at all. That way I can see them both. I'm going to get out my my Balmy Blue, and this has just been re-inked. So some of it's kind of strong, a little bit darker than it would normally be, but I've been stamping some ocean water for my swaps. So I had to re-ink. Let's see here. There we go. And the white is there as part of the stamp. It's not that I missed, that's the way it is. So that's my Balmy Blue. And then I think I'm going to get out my favorite color, Pretty Peacock. And I'm going to do, I said the other one. So that's this one and this one. So let me, again, get another block. And I'll just put them on opposite sides so I can see what I'm doing. Opposite ends, I should say. And here's another one. Here's the fill. Now I could stamp off before filling this if I wanted to, or I can just do it full strength. Doesn't matter either way. I think I did it the other way on my when I was prepping a sample, so we'll see what it looks like. I've also taken the liberty of using this die to cut out this guy. So now I have 4 images. I don't know if I'm going to really like this one. We'll see. We'll see. And I need to cut these guys out. So by the magic of video, we have those. All right, so let's go ahead and see what I have, how my backgrounds are doing. So remember how I said we have to cut this background down? And let's see, I'm going to cut it down to 3 3/4. And because the edges tend to get a little messy, I'm going to cut it from both the edges. So I'm just going to cut a 1/4 of an inch off every single side. 1/4 inch off there, 1/4 inch off here. And a 1/4 inch off the top. All right. So then let me go ahead and get a piece of Night of Navy. I'm going to make this 4 by 5 1/4. All right. Let's see if we can put something together. I'm going to put my bluish purple at the top. So we're going to have something that looks like that. Now, because it's quite curly, I can sort of work it with my hands a little bit. You used both of these dies for a card you mailed out today. Oh, great minds think alike, Linda. Right, I'm going to put quite a bit of glue on here, all over, and definitely kind of near the edges. Not too close because I don't want it to squeeze out, but I'm definitely putting a bunch of glue on there. And centering it on there, making sure it's good to go. And honestly, it would probably be a good idea to lay something on top of this because it wants to curl so much. I'm gonna have to do that off camera because if I don't, I won't be able to do anything on camera. All right, let me get my other piece here that I created. And just see how much softer it looks on the watercolor paper. Now this, because it was 3.5 by 5, means that I'm going to make my Night of Navy piece, which I need to get another one of because this one that I've got in my hands is not big enough. It means that I'm going to have to make this a different size. So we're going to go with just 1/4 inch larger, so 3 3/4 by 5. Nope, by 5 1/4, right? Oh, you know what? I'm going to do it by 5 though, because I'm going to cut this down a little bit because it doesn't quite have the dimensions of my card base. So since this is 3.5, that's 3/4 of an inch less than a normal card front. So 3/4 of an inch less than the height is 4 3/4. So I'm going to cut this down to 4 3/4 just by taking 1/4 inch off the top there. Oops. There we go. Oh, I need to figure out what's going on with that paper trimmer. I think it's the blade, and I'm just too lazy to fix it sometimes. Let me just cut this real quickly. Trim it with scissors. There we go. All right. So now I'm going to adhere this to this piece. I don't have 2 of everything die cut, so I'm going to have to do some die cutting after, I think. I'm going to do this. Tomorrow night, my husband and I are going to a Valentine's fundraiser for Young Life, which is an organization that works kind of between churches and schools. And it's a fundraiser, it's an auction, so my husband's gonna have lots of fun. He always does at these things. I donated a box of cards, quite a few cards actually. So I know I won't come home with that, but so now let's just kind of arrange some things on here. I don't know which way I want to do it. Let's see. Oops, I forgot this guy. So if I were to just arrange this, and then maybe I do need a sentiment, I think. What am I going to use for a sentiment? I'm going to bring in some Balmy Blue. So that was one of the colors I stamped with. And I think for stamps, let's go ahead and use the Thank You. That's a little bit more versatile. And it's smaller, which is what I need for this particular card front. So let me put that on. And I'm going to stamp in Night of Navy. I'm going to have to trim that down, so let me just go off to the side here and trim it down ever so slightly. And one end is a little bit longer than the other, so we'll trim that down too. So there we have that. And so we can just put that all together, and I have that. Oh, I do need the card base though, don't I? So I have a thick basic white card base already made up. And so it would look something like that. So it's a little bit more of a white border than if I were to get out this other one. Now this other one, you can see the streaks more, and I kind of like the streaks. I probably should have made this a little bit lighter, blended it a little bit more, but I really do like seeing the streaks here. And actually it mimics that paper pumpkin piece a lot more with the stripes. So we have a choice here. I will make both in due time, but which one should I do? Should I make the card out of the watercolor paper or the regular thick white? Go ahead, you can all vote. Ruth has cast her vote. Ruth is saying watercolor paper. I'm taking a drink of water to hydrate because my room is really, really hot right now. Anybody else want to vote? It doesn't look like it. All right, now I have a regular white. Now I have a watercolor paper. Okay, the 3 people that have been commenting, fortunately, there's an odd number of you. Watercolor wins out. All right, so now we need to put some things down with some adhesive. And this is why it's really important that your paper is dry, because otherwise it's not going to stick to the paper very well if there's some dampness to it. So with the vellum, I'm going to put that kind of low. I don't need it to show. I'll be hiding most of the vellum anyway, but put a couple pieces there on the vellum. And I'm just going to lay down a little bit just because I might decide I need to reposition something. I think I might as well just use dots for everything. Why not? I don't want them to show, so if they do stick out, I can just kind of take a little tool here and just bend that back around. You can use your snips, you can use take your pick tool. Let's do this. And now this one I can put anywhere I want. I'm not using any dimensionals though, because that I've got the sentiment that's going up on dimensionals, so can't have too much bulk in the center there. Because as we know, the post office does not like too much bulk. It sticks up their machines and it slows down the mail process. And we don't want that, especially when sometimes Stampin' Up! Goodies come via the USPS. All right. Now we have that. And you know what? I want to arrange it so that this little tail is going in a better direction. Oh, I don't know if I can. Let's see. I want it to go a little bit. Took up some of the watercolor paper with a sticky. Oops. All right, let me see if I can just take this off. There we go. I'm gonna twist this a little bit more that way, and then these I'm gonna have coming a little bit more in the same direction. There we go. And then we have this. So we have got some ends sticking out there. And if we wanted to, we could bring in some basic white baker's twine, which I am just about out of, but I have more on the way. The white and the black I use a lot. I forced myself to use some of the other colors because there's like 5 colors in the package. So we can just we can put that there. We can kind of wind it up and twist it and kind of put it in the background of this. I don't think I like that. I think I'm just gonna do this. Or I've got some new gems. They're not gems. They are natural matte dots. I'm gonna play with these things. I haven't even opened it yet. But I know there are some white ones in there. Let's get some white ones up here. And they are very flat. They're really discs. I wouldn't say that they're dots. What are they called? They are called dots, but they're definitely not. They're definitely more like discs. And I don't know if this is Night of Navy or Secret Sea, but it kind of looks like Night of Navy. So I'm gonna put some of those over here. You know what? I want a smaller white one up here. And I want to take this one out, and I want to put maybe a larger one of these over here. Here we go. Now let's make the card front. We'll just attach it to the front. And there we are. Gotta decorate the inside a little bit though. We haven't done that yet, so I'm gonna open this up and hope I'm not gonna make a mistake, because that would not be very good. All right, where is my pretty peacock? It was just here. It's gotta be here. Oh, there it is. It's nearby. I got all these blues on my desk. It's hard to find them. Hard to differentiate. All right, so we're going to do the outline right there. And I think this time I am going to stamp off and have that inside a little bit lighter. So I'm just going to take my little scrap here, and then we'll place this right over the top. There we go. And so there's a quick and easy, well, I guess it wasn't quick. It wasn't hard, but it wasn't quick. Here we go. Oh, you buy the non-machinable ones. Hey, what's the price of the non-machinable ones now, Linda? I haven't bought one in so long. I kind of take my chances. I live on the edge a little bit. But now this sticks up a little bit more than I would like, so I'm probably gonna sneak a little glue dot underneath there. Let's see, where is it? There it is. And it's not going to show because it's under both the blue and the vellum. So there is our card, and I'll make the same one using this piece, or maybe a different, I don't know. But just a little watercolor wash background, and just a nice variegated kind of look, which I do love. I don't do often enough. If I do it, I typically do a sunset, and this is not a sunset. So anyway, thank you guys for joining me. I am, oh, Ruth says you can use a regular stamp and write non-machine on the envelope. Do they really look at that though, Ruth? I don't know. I feel like everything's so automated now that they just kind of dump things, or at least at our post office, it seems really rough. Not Wells. I don't use the Wells post office. They're probably great. They're just out of my way. So I use the one where I work in the town I work in, and yeah, I don't think they look, but the cost is $1.27, so it's almost 50 cents, I think, more expensive. But you're right, it's worth not having it returned for sure. But anyway, so that is our card for tonight. If you wanted to make this a little bit more feminine, you could have used rhinestones, those would have sparkled. But these are flat. They're not glossy, and so they're matte and they're flat. And so I think that the colors in here make for great masculine cards as well. So thanks for joining me. I hope you guys all have a great weekend. And I just want to let you know that I love coming to you every Friday night, and I love having you be part of the Stamperhood. So thank you so much, and I hope you have a great weekend.